If you have the opportunity to relive an exciting moment in your lives, what would it be? One where they really felt intrepid, alive, and bold. I already know which one I would choose. That night when I got involved with Marcus, my son's best friend. I know that it can be frowned upon for me, a married woman in her 40s, to have fantasies about a boy who was barely half her age and who is also Gerson's best friend. But I'm not just fantasizing. That really happened one night when he and I were alone. It doesn't matter what you think now, because when I finish telling you my story, you will understand why I would so like to relive that event. When Daniel, my son, entered college, he made friends very quickly. That didn't surprise me because he has always been a very sociable boy, and both his father and I have agreed to let him have healthy fun. So it is not at all strange that he invites them over to play video games, have a barbecue, swim in the pool, or just doing boy things. Since Daniel was about 12 years old, my house has always been his favorite place for gatherings with his friends. As he grew older, he began to meet them in other places, but when they are short on budget, tired, or there is simply no better plan, they come home and have fun. Anyway, his friends always tell him that they envy him because we are very permissive parents. Some of them even call us Mom and Dad because they spend so much time here that they seem like our children. Others would simply like to have the freedom that we give Daniel, but whatever, my house is usually full of boys and I'm already used to that. Before I worried about taking care of them, well, because they were teenagers, making sure they ate and didn't get into trouble. But now Daniel's friends are adults, just like him. So I give them their space and only meet them from time to time inside of the house. However, with Marcus things were different from the beginning. That boy caught my attention from the first day he walked through our door. I remember it very well. That day Daniel had invited 3 other boys in addition to him, and they were planning an afternoon at the pool with snacks, video games, and some soccer. I already knew the other 3, but I had never seen Marcus before. Hello, Mom. Meet Marcus. He also goes to law school with us. He's a little crazy. That's why we included him in the group, haha. Daniel entered, addressing me that day. Hello, darling, and hello, everyone. How have you been? It's a pleasure to meet you, Marcus. You are welcome. Said. Very good afternoon, madam. The pleasure is all mine. I very much appreciate your hospitality, he said, approaching me and holding out his hand. Then he kissed me on the cheek as a sign of gratitude. Such politeness and kindness was extremely rare for me. I had seen all kinds of Daniel's friends come and go, and none of them were so attentive. I thought I had finally found someone mature who had something good to teach him, and I smiled back. However, I have to admit that I felt that gesture as something warmer and closer than it apparently was. I don't know how to explain it, but I think that in that moment a bond was created between us. Of course, the rest of the boys made fun of him for his excessive politeness. So I intervened because I didn't think it was right. The rest of you should learn a little from Marcus. You're already grown up, I said, and he smiled at me. After that day, Marcus began to go home more frequently, whether to study or to have fun, and for some reason I always enjoyed meeting him, even if it was for brief moments. The next time we talked, I was in the kitchen, making tea, and he walked in. Oh, excuse me, ma'am, I just wanted a glass of water. Daniel said I could serve it myself, Marcus said, embarrassed. Of course, yes, Marcus. Daniel is a little absent-minded. He has to learn to treat visitors better. I will be happy to serve it to you, and please don't call me madam. I don't look that old, do I? I told. Not at all. You look great, he said, and blushed again. Nothing about you. Tell me, Catherine, and I thank you for the compliment, I said, handing him the glass of water. At that moment, I thought that the boy looked really charming. He was so kind that, somehow, he inspired my confidence. Thank you, Catherine, he said. Then there was a brief silence between us, while he drank. Then he added, I know they must tell you this all the time, but you are an incredible mom. Daniel is very lucky. Thank you, that's very sweet of you. What about your parents? I asked for. I live alone in this city. They are in Connecticut. I came here to study. I really miss that feeling of being at home. That's why I come here so much. I really don't like being alone very much. It is very nice here. Said, you are always welcome. I don't know if Daniel has told you, but I am passionate about decoration. Maybe one day I can help you give a more homely touch to your apartment if you want, of course. Would you do that for me? I would love to. It's fantastic what you've done with this place. I'll leave you the address and maybe you can go over the weekend. Asked. I didn't expect him to agree so quickly, much less arrange a visit, but I had those days free and I couldn't refuse. Great, I'll come see you on Saturday. Just one thing, don't mention it to Daniel. He doesn't like me making friends with his friends. I asked him. Don't worry. I don't think he'll like the idea very much either. It will be our secret. Thanks again, he said, put down the glass and went to Daniel's room. The weekend arrived and I went to the address that Marcus had given me. I knocked on the door and he immediately appeared. Apparently he had just gotten out of the shower because he was only wearing a towel. I couldn't help but let my eyes wander to his magnificent pecs. He usually dressed in several layers, so I never realized he was in such good shape. Oh, sorry, Marcus. If you want, I can come back another time. I told him, embarrassed. No, please come in. Forgive me because I received you like this. I already knew you would come. I started to tidy up a little and time flew by. But when I heard you knock on the door, I didn't want to make you wait. I'll go get dressed and come back to you. Please take a seat or you can take a look around the place while I come back, he said, with an embarrassed smile that made me very tender. When Marcus smiled, a couple of dimples appeared on his cheeks, and that was really attractive to me. Oak, I will wait for you. I answered him and he left for what I assumed was his room. He would confirm it later. I took a look at the place. It was quite sober, maybe too gray for my taste. It only took me a moment to realize that it could be much cozier with new curtains, another rug, some plants and cushions. Then he returned. He wasn't dressed as usual. He was only wearing jeans and a t-shirt that made him look quite attractive. I could also notice that in an instant I got a little nervous that he would notice it, and I made an effort to keep my gaze in his eyes. So what do you say? Can we still save this place? Said. Definitely. I already have some ideas. My car is parked outside. I have brought some things that could be useful. Can you help me bring them? I asked for. Of course, right away. He answered and headed to the car, as I asked. A couple of comings and goings later, he finished bringing everything and I began to transform that place. Of course, there were things I couldn't do alone, so the two of us took care of the hardest part. We painted some walls, changed the curtains and the carpet, moved the furniture around, and time was passing very quickly. And what did you say at home? I know you couldn't say you'd be here. I wonder. Don't worry about that. On weekends we are all like independent singles. Everyone makes their plans and we rarely see each other's faces. I told him, laughing, and he laughed too. Oh really? But don't you do things with your husband? He asked and seemed quite interested. While he goes playing golf, I prefer to go to the movies or the theater, so I spend a lot of time alone. I answered. That's a shame. It must be very fun to go to the movies or the theater with you. If you ask me, golf seems like one of the most boring things in this world, he said, and we laughed again. Thank you. Maybe I'll invite you to join me next time I go, I replied. I would love that. I hope you do it, he answered with a smile, and there were those charming dimples again. There was a brief pause of silence. The place already looked quite different, but some details were still missing. While we were redecorating his room, we decided to take a break to eat and drink something. We sat on the floor and continued talking while the paint dried completely. Do you have a girlfriend? I asked him and instantly regretted it because I didn't know how he was going to interpret it. He looked into my eyes and smiled. I don't have one at the moment. It's been a year since I ended my last relationship, but I think I'm ready to get involved with someone again, he answered. And what would that someone be like? I asked, a little to play along and a little because, deep down, I was interested. Gentle, intelligent, beautiful, and creative. said. Sounds like you're talking about me. Ha ha ha. It's a joke. I joked and laughed to make it clear that I was joking. It doesn't have to be a joke if we both want to. He responded and moved a little closer to me. At that moment, the atmosphere changed. Everything became much warmer, and I could feel like there was electricity in the air. I couldn't describe what exactly it was. Maybe the smell of the fresh paint had affected us. But I really wanted to take a chance and maybe do something crazy. That sounds like you would be interested, said. I'm more than interested. What about you? He asked, coming even closer and looking me directly in the eyes. I kept my gaze, not only because I found that attractive and fun, but because I wouldn't let myself be intimidated by a boy younger than me. I might be interested too, I said, and I could notice a gleam in his eyes. My words seemed to have an immediate effect on him. The sweet, polite, and kind Marcus stepped aside to make way for another Marcus that I had not met, but who I was about to like much better than the previous one. This one was fearless, passionate, and risky. Just what I needed at that moment. Words were unnecessary when we kissed for the first time. I felt like a teenager. That uncomfortable but addictive tickling in my stomach appeared and very soon spread to other parts. The situation was actually very exciting because what we were about to do was not correct. However, no one was going to find out, and that was the green light I needed to accelerate full throttle. With Marcus by my side on this trip, the kisses were like a shot of adrenaline, so we settled down on the new carpet we put in his room. I closed my eyes and Marcus made me see the stars. I don't know what was more exciting, the takeoff or the landing, but that was one of the best trips of my life. If anyone listening has ever been on a plane, you'll know what I'm talking about. The electrifying feeling of fear and excitement that you feel when the plane begins to rise or when it is about to make contact with the ground is exactly what I felt that night with Marcus. I had no idea he was so good, but as soon as I recovered, I asked him to repeat it. I am quite demanding, and that young man exceeded my expectations. Or maybe it was because I really wanted him. Regardless of the reason, I repaid him for all his effort. That was a really intense meeting, maybe because we were tired and a little affected by the smell of the paint. But everything we did had an impact on me 10 times more than it usually does when I'm with my husband. Why should I lie to you? I love being with this guy much younger than me, and honestly, at the time I didn't care that he was my son's best friend. When everything was over and emotions were calm again, we decided to come to terms with the situation. No one in my house could find out what had happened, but we definitely wanted to repeat it. So we agreed that we would continue to maintain cordial relations with Daniel and my husband, very distant, as strictly necessary. But whenever we could, we would meet in that apartment to commemorate what we had done. I had to be really careful not to run into Daniel on any of my visits because I'm not supposed to know that place and would have nothing to do there. However, I would manage to continue having these meetings with Marcus. Catherine, you have driven me crazy. Seeing you only on weekends is not enough for me. I need to do this more often, Marcus said the last time we talked. I am also needing to have this type of meeting with him much more often. That is why I have asked him to come while I tell you this, and right now, he's about to arrive at my office. I'm dying to make him feel all those things he tells me when we're together. Being with a younger boy has its advantages, and that is that, for him, I am a kind of goddess, and I cannot lie to them. That triggers all my emotions to the maximum, and makes all of this much more intense. Someone knocks at the door. It must be Marcus. Now I must go, but I promise to tell you everything next time. Have you ever had to go through something like this? Tell me in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.